Thank you. May I take this opportunity to thank um, my Ruingo for inviting me to this group, which is a very important group in the lives of people who are going through various situations. I know our situations might be different, but I think generally there's no person on earth who is not grieved or who is not part of a certain culture. So my topic this night is grieving and culture, the do's and don'ts of consoling the bereaved. I think one has to note that grieving is something that everyone experiences in life. Grieving is something that comes when someone is disturbed emotionally, disturbed by loss, disturbed by success, like the rich man in the book of Luke, who is disturbed by having harvested a lot of grain and he doesn't know what to do because the barns in which he was supposed to store his crops or cereals are small. So his soul, his heart, his brain are disturbed. And in the process, to me, that person is grieving. There's also a person in this group who has lost a loved one. That person is grieving. There's a person also who has lost all the chickens that he was supposed or she was supposed to sell this week so that he finds or she finds money for school fees. And that person is grieving. There's someone who has planted wheat and the transformer has broken down. That person is grieving. So nearly everyone grieves at a certain point. But the challenge is how do we manage grief? How do we manage things that disturb us emotionally, that disturb our relationships, things that at times cause darkness in our lives? So those are the things I'm going to talk about in this hour, noting that there are do's and don'ts. And these do's and don'ts are because of certain cultures in which we were socialized or in which we grew up. So living itself has got a, a has got many challenges. Grieving as an emotional disturbance can at times kill you. It can also cause relational challenges. It can also disturb your performance at work. Even your thinking capacity might be disturbed. And this disturbance or these disturbances come because of the culture in which we are. Is the culture supportive? Or is the culture suppressing our emotions, our thoughts, our activities, our responses to issues? So these are the things that I'm going to talk about. Friends, do you know that at times in our culture, if I say in our culture, think of your culture, the way you do things. At times we blame our culture when it is supporting us. Our culture can support us in many ways. So I want to come in with these issues of support. Our culture can support us by being present when we have lost our loved one. Our culture also can support us by sharing the burden in many ways. The sharing the burden can be by singing throughout the night. And at times we underrate that. People might come and sing, and by singing, they are ministering to our hearts, our brains. Because at times we cannot listen to any consoling words, but we can listen to the songs as individuals. And that one is important. Our society, our culture can support. They can sing the whole night, whether Christians or non Christians. They play drums, they sing, they talk, they sit around the fire, and that is a practical way of caring for each other in times of bereavement. And in that period, people will be attending to our grief. So it is important to note that the African way of caring or consoling is so rich in many ways. Some come and cry with you. During that time, you might not understand, but the tears that provoke your tears are tears of love and solidarity. So I think we have also to understand and to appreciate the music, the tears, the practical issues. Some bring firewood, others dig the grave, whilst others cook, and all those practical ways things are normally free, unless when you want to hire caterers and diggers and whatever. But normally they are free. And in that way, we at times we do not appreciate those services. But I want us to understand that those services are important and we need to appreciate. That's the good side. And since we are in discussions, I want us to stop on that one so that we also discuss before I go on the other side. The other side of the African culture, or some cultures, especially the African cultures, uh, we find that there are some dons. As much as they are supportive, but also they deprive us of certain gifts from God. The gift of crying, the gift of allowing the water in the head to flow from the outlets, the two outlets, that's the eyes, to flow as a sign of cleaning the pain of the heart. And when a woman does that, it is allowed. But if she overdoes it, people will caution her. But when a man does that, it is not allowed. A man has to be strong. And in the process, man, the man does not cry. The woman does cry. This is very important, as I indicated in one of my sessions, that we have to note that crying is a gift and grieving is a gift because the Bible itself has got the whole book in the Old Testament of crying, of grieving. That's the book which is Lamentation, Mariro, at Jeremiah, where people are encouraged to cry and where people cried because they saw that it was important for people to cry over the collapsed nation. And also, Jeremiah is inviting professional women, professional women in Jeremiah chapter 9. Professional women are being invited through the book of Jeremiah by the elders, men who saw the danger of not crying in times when they are supposed to cry. And we see them paying for professional women to cry, just as people now are paying for professional singers to sing for them throughout the night so that their hearts might receive consolation and also their eyes might be filled with water or tears because those things are important. The toxin that is in the head, in the tears, if kept, would cause a headache and other health conditions. So the people in Judah and Israel, they realized that crying was important. Now, our culture might stop us, discourage crying for men, but also they discourage crying for women, especially when you have experienced a stillbirth, when you have experienced a miscarriage, people would tell you not to cry. But just imagine that people stop you to cry just because you have you have had a miscarriage. Because the experience of being or getting pregnant is a joyous, is one of the happiest moments for families or for couples. We see people jumping, oh, yay, I'm pregnant. And then that pregnancy disappears. And then people say, do not cry. That's the other negative side of some cultures who have refused people to cry. Do you know why I encourage people to cry? It's because they will have lost a person whom they will have given a name even before birth. The preparations, the expenses, there are expenses, they are even spending for this person in the womb from the time of conception. They are saying panemana. They start spending in terms of food, medication, even trying to avoid some of the jobs that might cause a miscarriage. And that period also brings a relationship bonding, and that bonding is disturbed by a miscarriage, and the people should cry. But men are said not to cry. Maybe women can weep silently, and also they would tell them not to cry. But men, they'll be crying because they'll be also emotionally pregnant during that period. The woman will be physically pregnant. The man will be emotionally pregnant. And even in the mind prepared to receive a baby. Maybe asking questions, is it a baby boy, a baby girl? Are they twins? Then when they suffer a miscarriage, these people should cry. Because if you lose you lose a dollar in your house, in your pocket, wherever, you start looking for it and you are disturbed because of the dollar. What of a person who has been in the womb for a month, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months? Why should you not cry? There are people who are affected, and these people who are affected are grandparents, the siblings who are also awaiting. So I want people to think about the importance of loss. That is great loss because the name, some, even when someone dies, the child dies after a week, you have taken, no, a birth certificate and all those things. So this person has got a name, and you can call that person by name even when the person in the womb, even after birth. But a stillbirth, even a death after a week or so, people are not supposed to gather. They don't. And I'm encouraging people to gather because I've buried a stillbirth with the parent and the father and the mother present when the society had refused. So we buried that in Blawai. So that experience is painful to the couple, and it goes on, and they don't sleep. At times they quarrel. You are the one who caused it because you went to draw water, or you started walking, or you did this. So all those things. Thank you for listening. Having said all this, let me, as part of my conclusion, say vanhu ngavacheme, but kana vanhu vashayiwa munhu anochema navo panguva iyoyo ngavazvipfigire mumba vacheme. Varume ngavawane nguva yekuchema so that they would find a time to start walking again in the spirit of gaining strength. Because hama vadiwa, mukarwadziwa mukarega kuchema, hapana chakunyaradzai. Tinonzwa Jesu achitaura kuti vanhu ngavacheme. Matthew chapter 5 verse 4. Vakaropafadzwa vanochema nokuti vachanyaradzwa. So I just encourage people kuti vacheme kuti vazonyaradzwa naJesu iye pachake, nokuti anonyaradza moyo womunhu, anonyaradza pfungwa dzemunhu, anonyaradza munhu semunhu. The culture has got various issues, but isusu ngatizive kuti the person who should be attended to is you, not them. Grieving is an individual experience. Saka umwe neumwe anofanira kuti kana asangana neproblem inomuitisa kuti acheme, ngaacheme, but achikumbira Mwari kuti amunyaradze. Uyezve chitsvaga hama dzakambosangana nematambudziko akadaro dzakachema, kwete hama dzakasangana nematambudziko auri kusangana nawo dzakanyaradzwa, idzo dzichazoda kunyaradzawo nokuda kuti dziri kushandisa method yakashandiswa iyo yakaipa kune vamwe kwavari. Saka there will be some sort of transferring their pain to you because even they experience a pain. Usachema. Do not cry. Be strong. You are going to have another one. Zvese izvozvo. Another one means that it means there was someone who has caused some pain, who has made me to experience pain. That means another one ari kuuya haasi kuzoita iye first born or second born, anotozoita imwe position nokuda kwokuti pakanga pane vamwe vakanga vachifanira kutora that position. Kana ari first born anoramba ari first born, kana ari third born anoramba ari third born. Ndine vana vangani? Ndine vana 4, asi umwe wacho akashaya, saka ndasara nevatatu. Saka that's the language, that's the feeling, that's the truth about grieving. I've written widely about these things. Music in Grief and Bereavement. It's another book that I wrote 2 years ago. Grief in Males, how males have suffered and also died because of suppression of grief. And also grieving in females, where women are at times asked not to visit the graveyard when they are burying their husbands or the deceased. And the women also grieve. There's a culture whereby in other areas which I don't want to mention now, but in Zimbabwe, where a widow, a new widow, okay, let me say, a person who has been widowed or who has lost a loved one would be asked to go at the back of the house with the brother-in-law to have sex as the other people are going to bury their husband. It's a sign of saying that relationship that you had with your previous husband has gone, now there's a new relationship. That's a culture. There's a culture again on widows, which I think is in the book that I've written, Grief in Women, Female Grief, that a woman has to sleep together with the deceased throughout the night as the last period of saying goodbye, or realizing that apachisina munhu, hapana sure afa. And other women will be seated there, but this one vanenge vachitiwo achimubata atoenda uyu, as a way of counseling, which is painful. But ndiri kuti ndemamwe do's which can be done. Saka ndiri kungoti inini, this issue of caring or grieving is personal, but also which is done in a community. As much as it is done in a community, you should know that it is attending to each individual. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you are going to benefit from this. Um, any questions, you can phone, and also maybe ask my Rubingo to just contact me. Um, since I'm in too many groups, I might be not be I might not be available for other discussions. But thank you very much, my Rubingo, and keep up with the spirit of caring for the people who are in pain, especially through him